Hello. I think we're live. Let's check if we're live. Let's check if we're live.
Live, live, live,
Let's
live.
see. Yeah, that one's live on the YouTubes. Let's find out if we are live on Stream Place. Where's my Stream Place link? Stream Place. Okay, yeah, we are.
Woo!
Hooray. Here we are. How are you, Dan?
I'm okay on this West Coast morning, Ted,
Mm,
on a Friday.
yep, same here. It's been. Here, let me change my light tone. That's fine. How are things? Oh, I'm totally in the wrong scene even. There we go. How are you doing, Dan?
I'm pretty good, Ted. Wait, no, I'm not pretty good. Um, there was there was an ice abduction outside my kid's school a couple of days ago at pickup
Oh,
time. So that's horrific
yeah,
for
that's
everyone.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blah. So
Uh,
far, the current administration is threatening to invade San Francisco, but they have not said anything about Oakland as of yet. Um,
no, no, thanks to the owner of Slack.
yes. Um, Interesting. Yeah, like which was so polarizing that John Conway was like,
Yeah,
hell no. I'm like, wow,
yeah.
that's intense.
That's like a
Um,
Y Combinator guy.
Not just even like
Yeah.
John Conway is known in Oakland for backing particular political candidates and bankrolling some of the. Well, I mean, Oakland's complicated, and the previous mayor was ousted, and also had her house raided by the FBI. Not a good look in a pile of ways, but the recall campaigns were also messy. Oakland's a weird place, or maybe not a weird place. It's not run optimally, I guess is the way I'd put it. So, uh, yeah, um, it's it's a weird time. The Bell riots haven't happened yet, but we are getting closer towards licensed media.
Yes. Yes, that's true. And I shared my opinion about this last time as to why they haven't happened yet.
Um, I think you did, but please refresh my memory.
Yeah, it's because someone traveled back in time to warn us about them. So we are already in an alternate timeline.
Yeah,
Star Trek was real
yeah,
until they came back in time and then stopped us from doing it. So we're already in the shitty stuff.
amazing. That's yeah. Wait, the idea that we're bouncing around timelines is slightly depressing, and I think totally possible.
It is the only way. It is one of the few ways I think to keep a mental hold on the situation. Although I did see a really interesting theory the other day, which is, are your kids old enough to for you to be subjected to 6 7 and Skibbity and the
Oh
Skibbities and the
yeah,
Miners? Yeah,
Roy. Yeah, my eldest has just started doing that, thanks to other family members, and the variations on it are goofy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, um, the provocative blog post that I read was that it is the equivalent of Dadaism and a response to the current environment retreating into the absurd.
Interesting.
Hmm. Hmm.
Dadaism is a thing that was a response to World War One and shell shock and a bunch of things, right? So, like, I don't necessarily know that I buy a bunch of tweens, and well, I mean, this ranges from like high schoolers down to the
Yeah, like first,
kids who were six,
second grade. Yeah,
um, and like
they
that
went
doesn't.
through. They're going through a pandemic, Ted.
Yeah, but I mean, like, my dude kind of didn't, right? Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't really remember what the pandemic was like, and
Yeah.
uh, and it's just like taken for granted, right? Like, nothing was taken away from him via the pandemic,
Yeah. In
right?
fact, they most of them got a lot more screen time,
Yeah, yeah,
which
but
is
like again, this dude is six, right? So like like when did screen time start to matter to him? And like maybe when he was like
uh
four. So
when Apple implemented it.
well, yeah, fair,
Major life events according to public APIs.
yeah. Um, have
Anyway,
we
shall we start the show?
posted? Yeah, we should start the show and post that we're starting the show. You want to start?
I've done that. I
Cool.
just did that.
And we are doing something slightly different this week, which is that we have produced some public show notes, which you can find at Hon Combat dot leaflet dot pub.
It's
Um,
amazing.
yes, technology is amazing, and like leaning into some of this at proto. Oh, this is where it would have been good to actually transition screens. There we go. To uh, the blog posts that we put up, which are just going to basically be links to the notes and, of course, the links to the episode that folks can refer back to. So there's a bunch of exciting stuff going on, and we were not around last week due to illness and poor planning on my part, and we and a lot of stuff has happened in those 2 weeks. So we're going to try two new things and also keep it a little tighter today. Um, so where do you want to start, Dan?
Let's start with well, you're involved in it, aren't you?
Oh yeah,
There's a new
I am.
Atmosphere conference
Yes.
coming
So
next year.
we announced that Atmosphere Conf 2026 is happening, and that's super exciting to be able to announce and talk about more. And this year, last year's was in Seattle, and this coming year's is going to be in Vancouver. So for people in the Pac Northwest, not much further afield, although there is border involved. And for people who are not so excited about trying to cross the U.S. border, you now can
Me?
instead cross the Canadian border, which is maybe less worrying, but again, complicated time. And uh, Atmosphere Conf this past year was amazing and a lot of fun. And looking forward to doing it again this year and trying to curate similar vibes. The crowd that showed up last year was a lot of fun and people thinking from a bunch of different angles, and looking forward to carrying on that tradition this coming year.
Yeah. Um, you're looking for sponsors, right?
Yes, that's right.
So people with money, please get in touch with Ted.
Yep,
Just in general, not just for Atmosphere Conference.
yep.
It is going to be in March. And you're aiming for what, like nearly double the number of attendees?
Yeah, that's
300,
right.
350 this 350 next time.
Yep, that's right. So we got Atmosphere Conf this past year together pretty quickly.
Hmm.
There were maybe like 150, 175
Hmm.
folks. So we're looking to over double that, and have a lot more talks. And the goal is to have some workshops as well as some of the working groups that we kind of kicked off and conversations that we'd started last year.
Is the CFP up
It's not
yet?
yet.
Not yet.
So Nick Jerikinis and I will likely be posting about that in short order, but we have not posted the CFP as of yet.
I'm going to endorse this. I went to it last time. It was super fun. It was great. Loved
Yeah.
it.
It was, yes, it was great to have everybody there, and the energy was really cool to see. A mix of talks on a variety of different subjects. And, that's the interesting part about being part of a community and a product that is about community, a product space that is fundamentally about community.
Yeah. Shall we go into the next thing?
Yeah, let's do it. This is, I mean, there's just a lot of interesting stuff going on. You tossed this out and mentioned that Boston.gov had joined Blue Sky, which means, they've got an App Proto account. I think that this is exciting for a pile of reasons. And one of the things that we talked about with Mozilla Social back in the day was um, how and whether accounts that provide civic information would participate in other social media spheres that are not just the existing ones that they were on. And I think that that is both a thing that will happen over time, right? It's not
Yeah.
a thing that happens all at once.
Yeah.
And so incremental adoption is exciting to see, and probably the way that this will go, right? Like Twitter also did not do this immediately all in one go. These things take time, and it's exciting to see more organizations join. And I also have additional theses around this and why you want cities like Boston in particular to join, because um, to the extent that blue sky in particular, right? I mean, like App Proto isn't just blue sky,
Right.
and I think that that's super important. But to the extent that blue sky already has a vibe, and it
Hmm.
is leftist,
Yeah.
it is sane to me that like lean into that, right? Like if there are leftist places that want to be on blue sky and reach the leftist community that they serve, like do that.
Yeah.
And Boston, of course, has a reputation for uh, that kind of vibe. And I think that's true for places like, Oakland or San
Hmm.
Francisco or other places. Like, this is not a, you don't have to boil the ocean. You should not try to boil the ocean.
Right.
Um, uh, so uh, the growth strategy can be piecemeal and ideally yes.
And one thing I want to say is that it's not just boston.gov. So it's not just one account. They are using the boston.gov account. And there's a post from Rose on the Blue Sky team
Yeah.
about this, that they've onboarded all of their agencies
Mm.
onto Blue Sky. So I need to put it on my list to use my civic tech contacts and my gov tech contacts to figure out who was involved in doing that. And we should get them on so that they can talk about this with them.
Yeah.
Um, that should
I
be
think
on my
this,
list.
yeah, it'd be super interesting to talk about the strategy around this and like
Yeah.
what is the strategy, just generally speaking, about how government should keep in contact with their citizens, right? And
Hmm.
the channels for outreach and updates, right? Because part of the promise of social media is instantaneous bidirectional communications.
Yep.
Um, and of course, as soon as you say that, you go, okay, there's no way that that can actually happen. That's true. The instantaneous update piece, right, I think is useful where governments can broadcast out information that are
Hmm.
relevant to the public.
Hmm.
Um, when we talked about the National Weather Service's experiment on Blue Sky, I think that
Yeah.
that is worth noting as part of that's kind of the goal there.
Yeah.
Um, but the like talking back to your government part is like complicated and hard and requires strategy if that
Right.
is a thing that a government agencies want to do. And so hearing how governments think about engaging with their public is a interesting and worthwhile thing that we should dive into more.
Yeah. Also, there's a quick thing for me, which is that right now it seems significantly easier for a government or a civic institution to take part in um, the Blue Sky network or the App Proto network than Mastodon if you want to do it in certain ways. So, like if you want to do domain verification, for example, then you do not need to set up your own server, which was one of the things that we were. Don't you? No, you can't. Can't remember. It's been
I,
that long.
I could tell you about account
Oh,
verification
yes.
in Mastodon versus
Yeah.
account verification in Blue Sky, and the
Yeah.
mechanisms are slightly different.
Yes. It's a link. It's a link verification and it appears differently, whereas the actual handle um is displayed differently, right?
You basically get like a checkmark verified thing on the Mastodon page to
Yeah.
say this web page.
Yes.
Sorry, this hypothetical web page. This web page links to my Mastodon
Yes.
account,
Right.
um, and then you have to trust that web page.
Right.
And so that's complicated in a pile of ways, and there
Yeah.
haven't really been great practices around doing that. So there's certain organizations like the Washington Post that basically just had a big long page of
Yep.
profiles of
Yep.
journalists who were on Mastodon,
Yeah.
and the backlinks back to the
Right.
relevant Mastodon profiles. Where Blue Sky, of course, a lot of that infrastructure is built directly into the DID handling and the verification mechanism
Yep.
there. So the domain name is kind of the supposed to be the direct proof of that thing.
Yeah. Sounds cool.
Um,
I'll stick them on my list to track down who we can talk to at Boston.
yeah, that sounds like it would be fun and interesting.
Yeah. All right, next. We're
Yeah.
speeding through this.
Yes. And how many folks do we have? I don't know that we actually have anybody. This might not be for chat this week. This might be for the playback later.
Mm.
Um, but so a thing, Dan, I don't know if you can see on the stream at the moment,
Yeah.
but we've got Dan Abramov's posts. He has been writing a lot more recently and writing about App Proto, which has been exciting to see. And he has helped to unlock for a bunch of people what some of the promise and like interest is in building on App Proto for the dev community and trying to grow the people who are experimenting with that proto, which I think is super exciting. And so just, kind of pointing to that. I do like the Dan kind of ripped, no, I shouldn't say that. Dan borrowed a quote that I love from the Tangled team, which is the protocol is the API. And let
Yeah.
me explain where that comes from, which is Tangled, of course, is like this really exciting and interesting mix of app proto services and user controlled data and Git. So if we talk about services like GitHub or GitLab, the whole idea there is you have a database, you've got a web service that centralizes all these social functions around Git. Git itself is a decentralized distributed protocol where you can have multiple repositories. There's a mechanism for syncing data between those repositories, and that's all amazing and great. But all of the rest of the social pieces around that, which is like, how do you want to share this stuff? How are you communicating over the stuff? What are the changes between different repositories that are left for as an exercise for the reader? Which is like actually interesting all the way down to like the original philosophy around Git and Linus Torvald stuff was like you should be able to email patches to other people and apply them to your Git repository, which you can do, right? I mean, like that's a super interesting mix of two separate protocols: email protocol and like text-based communication, and Git. And GitHub really kind of wrapped that up in the sort of like Web 2.0 era with like you've got a thing that hosts Git for you, so that's a value add by itself, and you don't have to faff around with doing self-hosting if you don't want, and all of these social features that it could build, which is like authoritative identity and being able to create organizations, different types of ways you can interact with Git repositories, whether those are pull requests and sort of structuring the way that you can share sets of changes, being able to compare easily in a graphical interface and browse through code and all that sort of fun stuff. Okay, so that's what, like, this is Web 2.0 plus this decentralized Git thing, which was functionally centralizing. What's exciting about being able to say you could take Git and you can take App Proto and mash them together and get an experience that is like GitHub and has these niceties and sort of UX affordances, but it's still decentralized. And actually, the social layer is distributed and connected in the way that App Proto is. And that leaves open this like wealth of opportunities for being able to experiment on both sides of the Git and at proto ecosystem and be as nice to use as something like GitHub. So where this the protocol is the API piece comes in is they didn't have a search function, right? Like they've really focused on some of the dev tool pieces, which is hosting, being able to self-host, and then adding things that people take for granted in code sharing sites like automations and other sort of mechanisms. So they just didn't have a search function. And what ended up happening was Chad from Slices said, I would like a way to search through this. This is a thing where I can just aggregate the posts. And since he's built Slices, he was able just to snarf everything from the fire hose that are Tangled repositories or change sets in Tangled and just index them. So he had created a search interface for Tangled external to the organization and released it for people to use. And so that's the point at which the Tangled team was like, yeah, the protocol is the API. It's exciting that other people can actually just directly interface with these things and build cool things that are useful for the ecosystem.
So can you recap that for me? So how did they work together to build? So How did they work together to build search, and where does that search live now?
They didn't work together. That's the cool part. And this works for things that are already public, and maybe I should try and figure out where. Let's see. You can go to Blue Sky, Sky. There we go. And then we can go boop to search, and we can say the protocol is the API. Let's see what turns up. Oh, do I need to? Yeah. There we go. Here is Anirudh's post. The protocol is the API. So awesome to see. And so this was a month ago where Chad had just set up this tangled search, which I will drop into here. I will drop the post first into the chat. And I guess we should drop this back into the show notes too.
Yeah, I'm ahead of you.
Oh, you already had me? Great.
Yeah, but I need the actual link. So.
It's in the Streamplace link. Cool. And there's a search interface, so we can say like, I don't know. I wish I knew a lexicon off the top of my head. What happens if I just search for slices and see what comes up? Yeah, here you go. So this found 12 results basically instantaneously. There's Slices the account. There is a repo called Slices, and there are some other related repos for Slices. And like here's a actually, yeah, this interface is great. I dig the sort of neo cyberpunk vibe that people have been leaning into visually as well. So this is something that I think is a great thing to show off what you can do with that product.
Nice. Yeah. Next thing? Shall we go into the next thing?
Yeah, sure. Where were we? Dan's posts. What does content moderation at scale look like?
Yeah, so I found a post by Haley from Blue Sky, the PBC.
Uh-huh.
This is a short one. Haley posted that on a debate. I will very, very quickly cover this, which is what people think about what using AI means in the context of content moderation, and then more specifically, image moderation, illustrating the fact that there is massive context collapse around what AI means, and that it is very, very important to be specific about what AI is and how it's being used and what flavor in what particular context.
Yeah.
And what Haley was pointing out is here is the size of the problem that you need to deal with. So in 24 hours of Blue Sky network usage, at least 500,000 image posts, which doesn't consider the number of images, just if an image was attached to the post. 86,000 avatars, 500,000 URL thumbnails. And the way that Blue Sky works is that those are pulled in at time of posting, and then they're baked in there. Mm-hmm. They're static at the time of posting. And then 58,000 videos. So Blue Sky are required to moderate these.
Yep.
There are legal requirements spanning everything from CSAM to outside of that, right? In varying jurisdictions to differing extents.
Yes, so I would frame that slightly differently. You are, I mean, no, you are to some extent, right? So
yeah.
for the whole in the U.S., for example, Section 230 means that you are not responsible for other people's posts so long as you follow a couple of different rules. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's better to avoid some of those things off the cuff anyway. And content moderation is just necessary as a product experience, right? It is the case that you can't just have a completely unfiltered fire hose. It will look like garbage. And that is spammers, griefers, trolls, people who are, grifting in a variety of different types of ways. You kind of have to content moderate in order to have a product that works.
So this gives me I've got an interesting thought, I think, based on this, which is that people don't. Haley's posting this because I think people don't understand the scale,
Yes.
right? Because we wrote, what does content moderation at scale look like?
Yeah.
Um, when we are kids, we learn about the infrastructure that is required for modern society, right? So we learn about what it takes in a general way so that we can get clean drinking water. And it might include something like, I'm aware of, I mean, hopefully, at least I did at my
That
school.
I think that is a
That's
very
a
optimistic
right. Okay.
take,
Okay.
but I agree. I
Right.
aspire to everybody in society
Yeah.
learning about how society works.
Right. Right.
Sure.
So let's say things like in general, I understand that there are buildings somewhere that take water that is not safe to drink and then turn it into water that is safe to drink. And then we hear about this in terrible places like Flint, Michigan, where there isn't,
Yeah.
where there's frankly unconscionable, not unconscionable, like,
Yeah. No, unconscionable.
unconscionable and also uh, practically lethal amount of,
Permanently
uh,
disabling. Yeah.
yes, yeah, amount of lead in water. And um, in, I think water might be an interesting example because you might be able to look at it and you might be able to see exactly how dirty it is. I remember now, like I see this in science museums, right? There's a science museum I take my kids to in Kansas City, um, and it shows the entire process of water purification and cleaning so that it gets through to
Uh-huh.
your tap. People don't understand what Haley's trying to get at is, do you understand the sludge that we have to process so that you get a reasonably clean feed that you are still probably not actually that happy with?
Yeah.
And so I think that has been obscured because, like you say, people want a good product experience. You can even go so far as to say a healthy product experience.
Yeah.
And that means that this is actually the shit that is in your feed that we have to clean so that it looks like something remotely drinkable. And the scale, the size of that infrastructure. Because if you just never see it, if you don't know how dirty that feed is in the first place, then it is very easy to be um, blasé or to just not understand how much work goes into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like this is an interesting thing too about the whole like original promise and premise of App Proto and Blue Sky, which is like user choice.
Mm,
And this is the bit where I talk a lot about how I think App Proto is a enabling technology for a variety of different types of sovereignty, if you want to call it that, right? There's like individual sovereignty, there
yeah.
is like a community level sovereignty in terms of the ways that we want to come together and associate, and then there's a sort of like jurisdictional sovereignty piece, which I think is complicated in a variety of things and really is the substrate on top of which all of these other things are adjudicated, right? But like the interesting part about like who's getting a raw and unfiltered feed and what sort of choices can they make is an interesting part of this, which is like, yeah, Blue Sky is filtering all of the Blue Sky microblogging posts, and they host most of them as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and so they're already doing sort of pre-filtering for a lot of folks. Can you go and snarf all of the posts out of PDSs out in the world? You can.
Yeah.
Um, is that the starting point that most people, even devs, uh, start from? No, it's not.
Mm.
Um, and so they are producing what I would argue is essentially a public good. Um,
It's pasteurized milk. Like what I'm
yeah,
thinking of, like there are a bunch of people here out there who are like, fuck no, I want to eat, I want to drink raw milk, and I don't give a shit. And either and from spanning from, I don't believe that the choices that someone is making, for example, in making that milk safe for me,
mm-hmm.
I either don't believe them, I think they don't matter, I think I will be totally fine if I drink it anyway.
Yeah. Um, it has been interesting to see people in the raw milk movement
Mm.
reinvent pasteurization
Right.
from first principles. So that's
Yeah.
been fun. But the other part about it is like
That is
even
speed running content moderation.
oh god, yeah, okay, that's fair and funny. But like yeah, I mean, I think that people don't necessarily appreciate the scale of these networks and the challenges within them, and then also like um, there are two arguments around using automation in content moderation.
Hmm.
And one is scale and reach, which is ultimately an efficiency and a sort of tailor right kind of thing. But I think is actually legitimate, right? Like we should talk about like how many people do you need, or how do you want to do this? And but part of that also is like uh, false positives versus false negatives as well when doing automation. And the other part of this is like, actually, you need some of these systems because it's traumatizing to do content moderation.
Right.
Um, and I think it's worth considering both of those when it comes to how automation is employed. And then also what is or is not problematic about doing automated content moderation. Because it's not that it's completely unproblematic. There are ways in which it's uh, potentially problematic. Um,
Sorry, I just did a thing.
you just did the thing?
I just did that thing.
Okay. Do
Yeah.
you need the
I
code that?
realized no, I realized that I don't need to. Oh wait,
Okay.
no, I do need to do that. Yeah, I need to do that.
There you go. Um, um,
I'm totally paying attention.
yeah. So I think it's important that people like know what the volume is, and then also what are the strategies that you could possibly take. And the other part about this is like, again, I'm still so furious at Sam Altman for encapsulating and capturing the public, um, capturing the public consciousness in defining artificial intelligence as this very dumb set of tropes that these truly out of touch, effective altruists have defined AI as. Because, like, all of the things that were fundamentally, I remember seeing a law paper about how we don't even need to talk about um, new AI legislation. We should talk
Hmm.
about the way that we are currently adjudicating AI right now, because the courts are
Right.
already having to do it. And this was
Yeah.
a paper that was 2 years ago.
Hmm.
And I went, oh, this makes me furious. And the reason why I'm furious is that AI is a terrible construct for talking about the constituent parts of the things that we're talking about, which is data rights, um, automation and responsibility for software,
Yes.
um, and governance and sort of the provenance of data,
Yes.
um, and like new types of software that people are going to create and do stuff with, right? Like the fact that we're tying it up with this bow of like, oh, it's AI is horseshit. It doesn't matter. Like automation in computer science is a thing that we've been dealing with for the entire existence of computer science, and we could talk about it using frameworks that are not artificial intelligence, right? And it's frustrating that AI has overshadowed a lot of these topics and talking about actual cost benefits around some of these things because of the particular sets of products that people put out there. Oh, and you know, again, the history of technology over the past 20 years has not been a great one. And this is one of the like core fundamental divides in uh, talking about how technology is eating the world, right?
This is why I got really pissed off with. So, for one, I'm a massive fan of Steven Sinofsky, who's ex Microsoft.
Oops.
He's got a fantastic blog and he's turning it into a book on the history of, I would say, like Valley style, West Coast style technology.
Uh-huh.
Lots of amazing stories about Microsoft and everything that Microsoft was doing. Plus,
Mm-hmm.
I think good opinions about what the rest of the industry is doing right now. And when the states were threatening to introduce their own patchwork legislation of AI, to which I agree completely with what you've been saying, Sinofsky was one of the people who came out saying this would be an absolute travesty if it happened. You know, it would just completely stop any and all innovation in technology. It won't prevent anything. And I remember thinking at the time, um, but our current approach, at least in the US, is to do the thing, discover what the harm is, and then after the harm has happened, try to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And arguably, that hasn't worked because of the stupendously gigantic settlements that have come about, and the fact that we aren't necessarily happy with the way that things have played out. So I got very, very annoyed at him for not acknowledging the history of what's happened and what hasn't gone right, and saying, well, there's no possible way that we can do anything about this. Um, and it also reminds me every time that this comes up, it reminds me about an alternative history, or an alternative reality where I did actually keep being a lawyer, because I think there's a whole bunch of stuff to do with lawyers.
Yeah, I mean, Emily Liu, who was at Blue Sky for a long while and joined them from the Washington Post, left Blue Sky to go do a law degree at Stanford, focused
Mm-hmm.
on policy stuff. So
Right.
I'm like, yeah, there's a nexus and a connection.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, we spent more time talking about content moderation and AI than we than we planned or thought that we were going to. Why
Yeah.
don't you do the next one? Why don't you cover
Yeah.
AltStar?
So AltStore was something that I had actually missed, which is really exciting. And this is what it says on the tin. It's an alternative app store that was announced last year and just raised $6 million. And they are taking a strategy where they are going to try and connect to the Fediverse, and allow people to own some of their own identities in the Fediverse. They've these this is by the same some of the same folks who launched the Delta emulator,
Yeah.
which is a great sort of multi-function emulator for iOS. They had a real tough time staying in the App Store on iOS, certainly, and I
Yeah.
don't know about the Play Store off the top of my head. So this is a story that is compelling from them, and they've linked up with some other teams like the Epic team in terms of launching some. Their aim is to launch an app store in Europe, an alternative app store that folks can install. And I think that's pretty cool. I think that we should see more alternative app stores. I'm excited about that prospect and interested in potentially building one of my own. They have, as part of that announcement, they're also donating $500,000 to Fediverse related projects, including a new social, which I was super excited to see. Which I'm gonna throw shade at Ghost again, for having blithely just tucked a new social and BridgieFed into their Blue Sky integration without acknowledging them, thanking them, or donating to them. So thank you, AltStore, for being better than Ghost. And I hope that other people both recognize the people who are doing service work within the open social ecosystem, and keep on driving at that. So that was really cool to see, and interested in keeping tabs on where they're going with that more as well.
This is where my European or former European upbringing will come to the fore again, which is I'm super proud of the EU for however badly implemented or badly legislated the
Uh-huh.
DMA, the Digital Markets Act, has been, in that we actually have a bunch of alternatives now that we wouldn't have had before. AltStore exists on iOS because the EU mandated it.
Yeah.
I think I've got the sneaky suspicion that stuff that Apple had to do differently in the EU has actually migrated in part back to features that are available in iOS in the US. Maybe,
So
and it's hard to do the counterfactual, right? Which is like, would Apple have done that anyway? I don't know, but the reality is that we have some stuff. At least EU has some stuff
yeah.
that didn't happen before, and then the fact that alt store can exist or it continues to exist. I don't know about sustainable or anything. I would need to find out more about how much it's being used.
Well,
Uh,
they just announced, so I'm not sure
yeah,
that they're actually live in the EU, and I can't check. This is one of those things where I'm interested in playing around with this more, and the folks who are thinking about Eurosky.
mm,
So, yeah,
yeah. So I'm like, good, great, some competition
yeah.
uh, that was
This is just
legislated for.
Yeah. And another thing that I just saw really quickly was somebody who pulled together an agent skill for Claude Code,
Mm,
which is basically just slurping up all of the app proto docs, and sticking them in so that Claude can index them and use them as a reference point, which I think is cool and useful. And being able to build app proto specific things and train on app proto related, this is an emerging space. So one of the questions that Boris and I have talked about is, how do you build a community
Mm,
and build the knowledge base necessary for the tools that people use to learn,
right.
or develop things, is functional and clear. And like App Proto as an emerging space, right, needs to be able to plug into some of these tools. And so things like this, I think, are compelling and interesting for people who are using things like Cloud Code.
Show up to where people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yes, we will. I guess. Well, we'll see how long this takes. We've got a new segment that we want to roll into called Updated, which is not just new things that we've sort of seen, but also kind of catching up on new and interesting features within App Proto, more broadly speaking. And yeah, what else do you want to say about the segment and what we're hoping to do with it?
I'm thinking of other names because we literally came up with this about half an hour ago.
Yeah,
Uh, we could also call it release notes.
yeah,
I like that one.
yep,
Um, anyway, oh, right. So, a couple things we need for this. If you are making, developing, publishing AT Proto apps, tell us about the new stuff, because then we can talk about it.
yeah,
And then I think that will help with hopefully a virtuous circle of getting more of this stuff widely known. We
yeah,
want to help.
yep. And so, as part of that, I mean, there are a couple of things that we've got since we last spoke. At Work launched, which is job board and user and professional profiles, all hosted on that Proto. These are um, records that go into your PDS, and are indexed on the atwork.place platform. And that way, your Blue Sky handle literally, your Blue Sky handle is your professional profile.
Mm-hmm.
There is no separate login, no walled
Mm-hmm.
garden. And there are a bunch of things that this is brought to us by prolific coder,
Mm.
Nick Jarakinis, who's also part of the Proto Community Fund, and also wrote Smoke Signal and AIP. And he has launched this in the past 2 weeks, including an interesting take on endorsements.
Recommendations is
Yeah,
how people might know about them, right?
yeah, and being able to write things for other people, which you can provably say is so and so endorsing me, right? The extent to which that you can think about something like LinkedIn, and you are basically trusting that all of the identities on LinkedIn are the ones that are giving
Yep.
endorsements. So but like, how good is LinkedIn at this? Pretty good, not
Mm.
perfect, right? So if I were to create a Barack Obama account on LinkedIn and endorse Dan for being a critical part of the Obama administration, then you are basically trusting LinkedIn to take down that false account, or trusting the user to be able to differentiate between a spam or fake account and the real. Like, does Barack Obama have a LinkedIn account? Probably not.
Probably now that he has a burgeoning media empire that he probably needs to post about, or someone needs to post.
Yeah,
But this is the sewage thing, right? Like, if LinkedIn didn't do the sewage thing, which is what we'll call content moderation, then spam and fake accounts, which are part of that, someone could come up with it. And uh, Twitter is shit at this,
yeah,
especially shit at this now. I remember reading recently about a whole bunch of people who there's a bunch of cases about people who've been scammed out of their cryptocurrency. And one of the people who has been scammed, or like they frequently use Elon Musk, right?
yeah,
So there's Elon Musk fake accounts that go around actually robbing, scamming people out of crypto. So at the very least, this is an additional layer of trust. I think, for a lot of people, nerds, certain people have been happy and excited for a long time about putting together cryptographically secure, attestable chains of trust with each other ever since, I don't know, like the early 90s or so.
yeah,
Um, so this is great. This is where you also get stuff like how the reputation economy might work or how social credit might work,
right,
right? Because you've got to be able to tie. at least one entity, the statement of one entity relating to another entity. And this is kind of foundational for that. And what we're saying is that AT-Proto just gives you that for free,
Yeah.
um, which is
And so
great.
seeing it implemented is really cool. And
Yeah.
actually, I suppose I could just open this up, right? Like, where's my at proto or at work?
I have a
Work.
lot of thoughts. We should get Nick on because now I'm wondering about. So one of the things that you could do early on with LinkedIn was that you could tag recommendations. So we went
Yeah.
around. You were probably you were around for this, right? We
Yeah.
went around tagging like really funny. We were shit posting recommendations. I
Yeah.
think might be a way to put it. Um, which was fun for a while, and then LinkedIn cracked down on it. And I wonder about some of the ways that you might deal with that, where the semantic web people will come crashing in with RDF and lexicons and all of that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
um,
Oops.
which would be a thing.
Yeah.
Uh, I can get myself pretty excited about this. There's one of the things that people talk about on Blue Sky is missing the fact that Twitter was a great place to find work
Yeah.
and to find other people. So I wonder, Nick, if you're ever watching this, or just tell you afterwards, if there's kind of like a community ritual or something where people do like recommendation Wednesdays, all right, a bit like Follow Fridays. Because I think there's something directly to feed off of there, which is, hey, if we want to build the thing that helps get people jobs, then here is a blue sky-ish thing. Here is an open thing that will help people do that. At least for now, it's hard finding jobs.
Yeah, and I think that there's been a pattern here too, where we've been trying to figure out how to do like a at proto hiring,
Mm,
um, and this is having some infrastructure to do that. I think is going to be compelling and interesting. Um, so I think that the figuring out uh, uh, um, do you want me to see if I can get Nick on?
uh, yeah. Why don't you try and get Nick on while I cover leaflet?
Yeah, cool. Let me just go ahead and scroll over that.
So while you do that, uh, while you try and get Nick on, I'm going to talk about leaflet.
Yeah.
Leaflet is let's just say the medium um, of that proto. Um, I think it's reasonable to say that. I'm seeing companies use it
Hmm.
as their publishing platform, like Grays, which we'll talk about later, uses Leaflet on a Leaflet domain to
Hmm.
talk about what they're doing. And they have got 3 custom new Blue Sky feeds. So these are feeds that you can subscribe to on Blue Sky, and they do 3 different things. So there's the reader feed, which is all the posts from publications that you subscribe to on Leaflet, and that's generated per user. And then there's a feed for Blue Sky follows. So posts on Leaflet from people you follow on Blue Sky, whether or not you're subscribed to them. And then you can find them and then subscribe to them on Leaflet. There may be people, this is the equivalent of, I didn't know you had a Substack. Why didn't I know you had a Substack? Now I shall subscribe to your Substack. We should find out, we should talk to the Leaflet people and see if they are going to get into the whole money thing.
Yeah.
Right, and then probably talk to the button down people. I know the button down people, and they're nice.
Oh,
And
cool.
then the last one, Discover, which is a bit like an FYP. No, not an FYP, which is a bit like the Medium homepage or something. So this is every post from Leaflet publications, apart from the ones that opt out and the ones that are published quietly. Which is also cool. It's nice to see this. You know what? It feels great to see all of this stuff happening.
Yeah.
At least from my point. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
And being able to use some of this stuff, right? I mean, like this is one of the reasons why I wanted to use Leaflet actually as our mechanism for talking about this and being able to post some of our show notes. Okay. And hey, look, a challenge is appearing.
Oh wait, cool, nice.
Hello. Hey, Nick. Let me do two things here really quickly. You are muted at the moment, and I will ask you to unmute here in a minute. Oh, You are a tiny little. I'm going to put you in the middle of this. It's still muted.
Lovely.
Rezzing
Okay.
in, but in a way that's better than Tron Ares, which I'm still going to see. I got my UHD disc copy of one of the best music videos ever
That
yesterday.
was the weirdest part about being at Disney and seeing all these Nine Inch Nails T-shirts, and I'm like,
Right?
oh, that's a bit of a like juxtaposition. I'm like, oh wait, no, they're a Disney franchise now.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. It's
And
because we're older.
yeah, we are old now, and Nine Inch Nails is all about the kids, and
Yep.
the youth these days. Okay, let's see how I can better compose this shot here. And I guess Dan, I'm going to need to contort your. Oh, can I do that? I can. Perfect.
You
Awesome.
want me facing this way?
No, you're good. What I'm trying to
Oh.
do is just give us a little bit more space so it doesn't look like we're like literally standing on top of each other. Nick, I'm going to move you around for a second. Okay, there we go.
We've got no
And
legs, just like we're in the metaverse.
yeah, there we go. Yeah. How are things going, Nick? How you been?
It's going great. It's a beautiful day out, and I've been hacking away on attestation stuff.
Oh, cool. That's actually exactly what we were just talking about. Uh, we were talking about at work and the launch of that, and sort of the professional network piece of this. And I'd been mentioning that, like we've been talking about this at proto hiring piece, and it's nice to have some actual
Yeah.
infrastructure around it. But then, what are the things that are sort of unique and interesting about at proto, and the fact that the way that endorsements work here are different than other spaces, and the degree of trust that you need to have in a platform and their ability to weed out accounts. Because, like, the example I was using was, I have no idea if Barack Obama has a LinkedIn profile, right? Like, I could create a Barack Obama LinkedIn profile and endorse Dan for all of the amazing work that he did in the administration, and it would be up to LinkedIn to remove that account first,
Yeah.
or for the user to disambiguate a false account. And so having something where it's like the identities are more clearly tied and records are attached to those accounts, I think is like meaningful and useful.
He does have an
Yeah.
account, by the way.
Okay, there you
Yeah, yeah. He's got some experience in his experience list.
So, and I mean that's really the motivation, right? If you can have your resume, your interests, your preferences for where you'd like to work, remotely, hybrid, geographically, being able to like search for other people or jobs in that, but in a decentralized, distributed way, like it bringing all that information on protocol is a big deal.
go.
Endorsements and attestations are like a really important thing because we've all seen how miserable it is to, and I actually cannot, I'm pretty sure I'm legally obligated to not say LinkedIn is miserable. So I absolutely won't say that LinkedIn is
I'll say
miserable.
it. I don't like I'll do it this way. I see people complaining that ever since Twitter has gone away, that they really don't like having to use LinkedIn
Yeah.
to find jobs and to talk to other people. And yet that's what they have to do. And they don't like it. So I've seen other people be miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a lot of like adjacent websites that people use, like Indeed or sometimes even Glassdoor to find jobs and find information. And being able to have a certain like a certain chain of trust, right?
Mm.
One could say the original web of trust, in who is endorsing and making comments about what it's like to work at places or how they can get connections to those places. I think that's going to be a real enabling thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should do a thing. I think we should do a drive for something like recommendation Wednesdays, something
That's a
where we get everyone to do a recommendation because everyone on Blue Sky, we can get them to do that. It'd be like Follow Fridays, but new and more interesting and better.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
I'd love that.
let's go tell people. We'll tell people after
No.
this.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Ted, you said that Nick is prolific.
Nick is absolutely prolific. Is probably one of the most prolific developers in at Proto right now, and has been writing all kinds of stuff. Right, like so. Nick is responsible for Smoke Signal.
Hmm.
It has worked. Nick has also worked with Grays. So, what is Smoke Signal? Smoke Signal is a geo-enabled event listing app. So that way, if you're hosting events, you can put up a posting, and people can RSVP there, get updates about the event, and that's another piece of infrastructure that did not really exist when we launched Atmosphere Conf last year, and we're going to be using this year, which I'm excited about. Nick has also worked with Grays on releasing a lot of interesting pieces of kit for the ecosystem, including something called AIP. This is a thing that I'm super excited about and have been for a while because for me, the power of at Proto is not just like you can do things inside the box, but like actually there's a world of software out there and how do you connect to that? And so
Mm.
AIP is a service that connects your app proto identity to an OIDC provider. So anybody can stand up their instance of AIP and plug it into a bunch of software that uses OIDC as an identity provider. So examples, Discourse, Grist, there's like I think that you can I shouldn't actually speak without actually like getting a list. I should get a list of like really interesting things that you can connect to where then anybody who's got an App Proto account can just immediately sign up and log in. And you can then do things like, mention them directly in the discourse or, add them to groups and things like that, which I think is super handy because like we should be talking about how App Proto enables us to connect to other folks, other ecosystems, as well as building this particular ecosystem. So I love that. I think AIP is a great idea. I'm glad that Grays and Nick, y'all have done that. And there's if this then at, which is the sort of inverse, which is like how can you trigger events and sort of webhooks interface for things that happen on App Proto, which is another Grays and Nick Jarakinis collaboration. Which the like key thing here is it's got Zapier integration right out of the box. So you can just like hook up to whatever ecosystem you want, any of the zaps that they've got, and fire off events for things that happen in the App Proto ecosystem. There's more. Nick, what else have you been working on?
Yeah, let's see. So AIP was really enabling because, like, I know you listed a couple, but like WordPress, Matrix, there's like a slew of integrations that all support OpenID Connect, which is a big deal. And it also allows for, in my humble opinion, humble biased opinion, easier like MCP integrations, which is not something that you can easily do with that protocol because of the whole handle to protected resource directory or resource server thing. So it's a lot of fun. The attestation and authentication stuff is really sort of like the lowest bar. It's like the big hurdle that people have to get through to start developing apps, and that's why like Chad doing a bunch of slices stuff is basing a lot of that on AIP in the background. And then attestation supports everything from how can we help people endorse other people and show that it's authentic to how can I prove that I earned a badge or went to this conference or attended this event, or that there's a mutual author on a leaflet post or something that I created. So I think that these are really interesting things that are sort of platform application building blocks. They're not part of the core protocol quite yet. But they are like enabling things to it.
Um, yeah, and I think that's the like super interesting part around. Let's see, sorry, I lost the thing. One of the things
Oh,
that you've been talking about attestation for a long time, right? And as part of
yeah.
how we can kind of connect with each other. And I'm interested if you think that that is um, because you'd also written a blog post actually a while ago about ways in which you might be able to do payment rails
Mm.
on App Proto, and that's
Yep.
where some of this attestation had come. Some of the early parts of the attestation conversation had come from, which was how would you prove that somebody bought a thing?
Yep.
And being able to say like, yeah, you could give somebody essentially what is a receipt that is cryptographically signed, stored in your PDS that says, I bought a thing. And then when I log into a platform, that platform can go, oh yeah, that person bought this thing, and it's cryptographically signed, so I know that they actually did do the purchase from this place. And that's your proof of purchase, which I think is a potentially interesting and enabling type of thing. Um, and I strongly endorse. I know that there have been further conversations from there. For example, Stell's been doing
Yeah.
a wallet linking piece, which is a different type of structure here. But what I liked about the original conversation about like, hey, a proof of purchase is just a type of attestation,
Yeah.
is that it's actually completely agnostic about the mode of monetary exchange.
Yeah. And I
These
think that's,
are
oh,
sorry, these are public though, right?
The proof of purchase would be public, but they don't necessarily have to describe what is being purchased.
yeah, absolutely. And the real important thing is that like some of the core pieces of that protocol that are used in this are the concept of CIDs, which are basically SHA-256 checksums of a record. So your proof of purchase could just be a checksum, like a one-way deterministic hash
Hmm.
of the thing that you purchased or some information. So as long as you have this signed or verifiable, effectively entitlement, you
Hmm.
can get access to the media or the service or whatever it is you've proven that you have payment for or have made payment for. And because there's both remote and inline references that allows for things like customer support to revoke a subscription or to handle all of the sort of real world use cases of revocation or deletion of these entitlements. And I think that's also the big difference between what Stella's been working on is that on one hand you have the actual like transfer of funds or transfer of value system, which is that payment itself, and on the other is the entitlement that says now that the payment went through, I'm entitled to this service or content, etc. And I think that they're really complementary.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
Yeah,
a receipt and an access token.
exactly. Yeah. And uh, the fun part is that like very little is like really new or found like relatively new to that protocol. Like we're using the same, P256 and K256 like signing methods that are used in, your PDS and current like cryptographic stuff as implemented. So we're not really like forcing people to or applications to use something new that they have to like build for. Like everything's already there.
Wait, this is a thing I just realized I hadn't actually fully grokked or need to bother you more about for a pile of reasons. So, are you grabbing the key, the multi, like what is doing the PDS is doing the signing, right?
Yeah,
Okay, and that is using the same like did
Public private key.
yeah,
um
exactly
uh
right.
did signing. Okay, I'm gonna need to ask you more about that to figure out how to do the semaphore thing that I want.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Neat.
yeah,
Oh,
But
thanks, Jackie.
wait, but because this is using so much standard, that this is let me do a callback. The protocol is the API, which means doing receipts and providing tokens is relatively trivial because it's provided by the protocol. The protocol is the API for doing receipts and providing access. Um, which means how easy would it be for anyone else to start building this into an application that they're building?
pretty easy. Yeah. Um, so at work has this endorsements thing. I
Mm-hmm.
created some blog posts about it. One, it's sort of a why it exists and what problem it solves, and the other being sort of a more technical deep dive. I've
Mm-hmm.
got the latest revision of the attestation spec that it's the document's ready, and I've implemented the some tooling to demonstrate how it works. So probably today or tomorrow we'll
Oh,
publish that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in really good shape and it's pretty thorough as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Anyone can start using this because at the most simple level, you don't even need signatures if you're using remote attestation. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically a checksum of the opposing record content, but
Mm-hmm.
stored in the a tester's
Okay.
PDS. So it's actually very, very like the end result is a very simple way of having so domain separated things, so no one can use attestation to fake like an inter-service JSON web token or like
Mm.
sign some arbitrary byte thing. It really is just a signature of the CID, and
Hmm.
hosting that as a remote CID reference provides all of the validation function as well. So today, anyone can start going, hey, I want to prove that this person joined me at the park, and
Right.
a single button click to create a record to sign or to create a checksum of the RSVP that they hold that
Yeah.
say that they did.
Ted,
Um,
did you ever work on Mozilla badges?
no, however, I went to high school with one person who did. I was in a D&D game with another person who did. So, yeah, I am well
You
familiar with
have
that
badges by
activity.
association.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like this is still some of the same sort of thing, and I think this is one of the challenges that badges Mozilla Badges had, which was that the capability is interesting, but you really need to start building product practices out around it.
Yes.
And that's where seeing the applications that Nick has been working on, I think, are useful. Which is like, what's the practice that we want people to establish? How can we think about ways to interact that will uh, that are about this kind of mutual trust and those representations of trust, and then like there is absolutely a world of opportunities there.
Yeah, and I think to sort of to highlight and showcase one thing, there's this current verified person feature, right, that lives on the Blue Sky app view where they
Hmm.
can create a record for these endorsers to say, yep, we believe that that person's real.
Yeah.
And they're doing so by doing something very close to attestations by
Mm.
saying, well, as long as the display name here matches the display name there, it's correct. Well, in my opinion, what it should be is it should be a CID
Right.
of a record of their actual profile record
Yeah.
to say that once their profile changes, the validation doesn't is no longer exist. And to actually be bidirectional and to have full consent, someone on the profile side should say, yes, I am okay with being attested. Please allow me to show up as being verified, because either party should be able to revoke
Yeah,
said thing.
We saw. Well, I remember seeing this happen when people had verification just turn up overnight, and they had no idea what was going to happen to them.
Yep. And for the most part, it's reasonable. Like people want other people to provide some sort of proof or claim. But sometimes you might not want that, or you might want it to stop because of some reason, and that's a totally valid scenario.
Mm.
yeah. I mean, I was arguing a little bit about this with Eli. Hi, Eli. I think that you're watching, given what you're posting. Um, but like there we were having a conversation about the fact that some of the same technology underlying Blue Sky is the same stuff that you'd use to create a Ethereum wallet, and so you could actually just port all of the PLC into the Ethereum blockchain and give everybody wallets that people could send money to. I'm like, that is a thing that would make quite a lot of people very mad because like the consent piece to this is important, and like um, being able to give people an avenue to opting out or choosing not to participate is really pretty critical in human interaction generally. Yeah. So I mean, like things like this are cool, and thinking about the patterns, and that they are given the app proto infrastructure, what level they're enforced at, I think is really kind of critical, right? Thinking of the app view as a convening place
Mm.
for a thing to happen,
Yeah.
and then that relationship is controlled and owned by the people who have that relationship is, I think, the interesting and important part. Yeah. So, um, yeah, man. This is are there other things that you've got on tap for at work, or that you're thinking about, or that you'd like to see with, or what are you sort of hoping to see or sort of aspire to with at work? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, I'm really interested in taking locations a bit farther and
Mm-hmm.
allowing people to, well, I think locations in general can be really explored and a lot added there. Being able to find job listings is one thing. Being able to browse regions to say these are all the people that are in this field or professional area would be very
Mhm.
cool. And then I'm really fascinated by the concept of like ephemeral data. So like with Atmosphere Conf coming up in
Hmm.
March,
Yeah, March.
the idea that a bunch of people could like congregate to an area and then be there, that is like ephemeral location information, but it's highly relevant to the event, right?
Yeah.
So figuring out a way to incorporate that both on like an event space and like in a professional, so quasi social setting, that's also really interesting. So I'm looking to explore that a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. I Let me throw out some references, and I'm curious if any of these ping for you. Which is like one of the original use cases for Twitter was very much like posting what's going on while you're at South by, and being able to inform people where you are immediately and like help people coordinate and congregate in particular kinds of areas, right? And so that is essentially ephemeral information. Its relevance is ephemeral, but of course it was sort of stored forever. Um, and the other thing that I was going to mention was out of the original location-based apps, right? There were really two key ones initially, and they were Foursquare and Gowalla. And Foursquare never spoke to me because like the competitive aspect isn't a thing that I was particularly interested in.
Mhm.
Gowalla, I freaking love because there's just badges everywhere, no
It
matter
was so
what you're
playful. Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was super whimsical.
yeah. And but of course, I concede that Foursquare won that in terms of the social dynamics that they really encouraged and drove up to the point that they hit their plateau and then they're now a B2B company. But like, are any of those interactions, or do you think of those interactions when you're thinking about both ephemeral things and also sort of
Yeah.
like co-location
Yeah.
in real space?
I think the whole concept of editing records could also be incorporated here because what if you had a status that was tied to a hex, like a geographic area of a
Mm,
certain radius, and you could say, this is my status as it applies to this last point in time, but only in this area, like
right.
being, at South by Southwest or something, or at Atmosphere Conf in Vancouver. So record updates are published, through the fire hose just as crates are. So there's nothing really preventing ephemeral or temporary status information from also being published in that context of an area. And it also sort of reduces, I guess, the exposure or concept of privacy leaks because you're saying, hey, I'm only updating my status as it pertains to this hex grid. It doesn't contain any other
Hmm.
location information.
Hmm.
And the timestamp is really going to be less dangerous to produce or associate. So it's more like how can you create, slash now or
Right.
regionally scoped location and status information. I think
Mhm.
there's like a weird intersection there that I really love the idea of. Because if I had an app that just said, hey, I'm getting out of the Uber or, you know, got on the train to head to the restaurant and it was only going to update for that area when you're there,
Mhm.
much less risky than having something that's just generally available as a new record saying, now I'm at this place. So
Mhm.
Is it so you said that it's editable? Um, but if I'm storing the fire hose, if I'm a third party who's storing that, then I would still need, I still can't access it, right? Because it's just the hash of what the underlying data is. So
this is sort of
how
a
historic,
it
right? Because we're talking about ephemeral, but it's
yeah.
also what are the is my risk model is still someone finding out where I've been for the last 5 years.
Yeah, if you're dealing with any amount of fire hose data, you're
Mm,
effectively thinking as all records as like having a vector clock of the CID, like the content hash,
mm,
and the time that that hash was encountered.
right.
And that's going to be linear. So it's totally possible to create a timeline of
Hmm.
when a record changed and what
Mm,
what the time that it was. So very valid. It's more of a guardrails to prevent people from accidentally setting
right.
their status outside of that sort of geofenced area or realm. But yes, everything effectively is what was the data, what was the actual content of the data, and then what was the time that this
Right.
version was set.
Right. Cool. I
Cool.
expect
Yeah,
to see something by March 2026 where you can badge in and you can automatically update your status just by scanning a code.
absolutely. I think that would be super fun to be able to have a time rotating QR code to like
Yeah.
verify presence at an event
Yep.
based on record content. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What about NFC tokens, and just being able to embed things and swipe your phone?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential with being able to have this like intersection of like digital physical stuff
Yeah.
using NFC as the medium. In fact, that was like my, when I worked at Mattel, our big product was Hot Wheels ID, which was having an NFC,
Hmm.
an NFC chip on every Hot Wheels car. So as you're playing on the track, yeah,
Was
it's
this
really
back
fun.
in what was this? This wouldn't happen to be roughly about 15 years ago.
No, this was about 6 years ago.
About
Yeah,
6 years ago. There
yeah.
was in my agency days, there was everyone was going on about the horrific portmanteau of phygital experiences, which
Yeah.
was just vomit worthy. But the whole, yeah, everyone was super into NFC and being able to activate stuff based on um, objects.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and NFC is a really, really interesting thing, especially when you're starting to tie like geolocation and encountering of
Mhm.
NFC and what that means for like privacy and safety. And it adds a lot of, yeah, a lot of complexity and a lot of thought needs to go into it. But the idea that you could physically play with a car on a track and have it like rack up points to then the mobile application have certain abilities unlocked or to create tracks using a digital plan and getting physical instruction and whatnot. I think that's really fascinating. And it also incorporates a really interesting twist for like identities having seeds or like
Hmm.
proof of
Yep.
data that you can only access when you're physically there to incorporate into like a scanning for a check-in
Hmm.
for an event or something like that. Um, yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I could talk to you forever about this. I did not know this about your history.
He also worked at Blizzard
Yeah,
on a bunch of the identity pieces there too. So like
yeah.
the
Oh, this explains so much because at the back of my head, I'm going, right. So, in principle, it would be interesting for someone to knock up a spelling bee or a connections clone on Aproto, which automatically produces a leaderboard every single day with badges for whether you got genius or not.
yeah.
I think a really cool thing would be able to have certifiably certified or let me rephrase attested video game saves. So
Yeah.
if you were
Oh,
playing a
yeah.
game and the game server
Yeah.
stored your save game on, on protocol to share
Yeah.
with others to
Yeah.
demonstrate where you were, but also validated that it was saved in an authentic way and it
Right.
wasn't tampered. I
Right.
think that's a really cool concept that people would actually enjoy, and it changes the way that people share game state and information
Yeah.
um, in a less hacky way.
Right.
Well, maybe more hacky depending on how you think about it.
Well, and in a easily more DRMable way, which is cheaper to implement for all of the platform publishers. I'm like, who do I know at Sony?
Yeah, I mean, we should keep on talking about all this. I mean, maybe we should have
We'll have Nick
a
on next
gaming.
time. Yeah.
Well, we should have Nick on next time just to talk about the wider world of things. But we should also talk about a what is the gaming contingent at Atmosphere Conf going to look like?
I There's a very loud number of people that are interested and excited in that, and
Yeah.
I think when you look at the core technology used to do these things, it's not anything huge. I don't think we're actually far away from building some of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, which is if you're building something and you want your trophy system or whatever, and you're not building on one of the existing platforms, then how can I do something like that? Making this easily, at that point, this is okay, right? How do I make this easy to work with in Unity or Unreal? And then what might it look like in Steam, for example, or how might it interact with something like Steam? Yeah, we should definitely talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks, Nick. I mean,
Yeah,
did we have additional things in here that we
we
were going
had
to talk
one
about?
last thing. The one last thing was Grays,
Oh yeah.
and then
Okay.
we're
Well, let's talk about
yeah.
Grays. Nick, do you want to hang around and talk for Grays for 2 seconds? We just basically just been rolling through a variety of different topics and updates and things like that. And the update that we had about Grays was the release of the Mega Stream. And is that what they? Oh, I should. No, I'm not going to bring it up. People can find it in the show notes. And um, there's the jet stream, which is the fire hose of all posts. And Grays has been providing a couple of other streams, both internally and externally, right?
Hmm.
And the external stream that they had been providing was called the Turbo Stream, which was this fire hose, but with all of the references actually built in, being able to connect a couple of pieces of data so that you don't have to go out and spider and fetch individual pieces of data. It's all baked
Yeah,
directly in. And then the new thing that they've announced is the Mega Stream. And the Mega Stream is cool because it's machine learning inferences added on top of each reference. So I believe this is embedding. I don't know what embedding space this is using. Nick, do you happen to know?
embedding
Yeah, so
space.
there's a handful of
Yeah,
models that are used for it. There's like sentiment analysis, there's some categorization. Um, there are, I want to say, three or four different embedding models that are referenced. And
I'm looking
basically
at the
what happened,
list. They've got language detection, so probability scores for languages, content moderation, sentiment analysis, topic classification for 20 plus categories, emotion detection for 28, emotions, toxicity scores, financial sentiment, marketing detection, and vector text embeddings for multiple models, and then inferences. So this is stupendously, I'm going to use a shitty term, this is stupendously value add. And the pricing model is nuts in how simple it is.
Yeah, I'm a little bit puzzled that Devin is just releasing this for anybody who just wants to pay to download the data. But cool, people should fucking use this. I should figure out how I should use this.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this is one of the really fun things that's come out of some of the ML stuff, the AI MLCS stuff, is that being able to take all of these processed embeddings from these different models and create like similarity and vector search off of it is pretty fascinating. Because if you have this hydrated record of all of these different embeddings plus categorizations, then you can start to create more easily chains of reference. So you can say, okay, well, I have this post. How similar is the post to this other post, the last post that a user created, or their description,
Mm-hmm.
etc.? And you can create these really sort of fascinating graphs of similarity between these vectorized data sets. And I think it's cool. I think it's pretty neat, especially when you look at image uh, image embeddings and
Mm-hmm.
how all of that works. Can you start creating associations between like the availability and accessibility of content within images, being able to
Mm-hmm.
like clearly determine something and associate it with other posts.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cool stuff.
I can only see it as a we built it anyway. If we can give it away for next to free, because we don't even need to really build any billing around it or access around it, then it's very much like, oh, this could be Cambrian explosion-ish, in terms of enabling, in terms of making it easy to build things that you couldn't have thought of based on it, because it feels foundational in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And as someone who's been working on some of the Gray's tooling,
Hmm.
both in Rust and in Python, it's been sort of fascinating to see the amount of data grow over time as well. It's truly huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was our last update.
Yeah.
Nick, thanks for being our impromptu challenger. Any things you want to plug before we sign off?
No, I'm just really excited to go to Atmosphere Conf. I'm also really excited. I'm going to be in Montreal for the IETF,
Oh, cool, cool, cool. Yeah.
event, and yeah, I'm absolutely going to follow up with y'all on making that Wednesday social event
Yeah.
for endorsing others a thing. I think that's a
Let's
great
do
idea.
it.
Yeah, I mean, like, gas app exists. We like there's a pattern here that we can follow or ask people. I mean, like, I think that the appreciation for others and joy is important. And it was I have an endorsement on my profile at work, which Nick wrote a really kind thing, which I found both touching and I deeply appreciate. And that's a thing that we should like try and encourage people to do more and write for each other.
there is the product thing. Ted, you briefly alluded to this, which is we know that people are going to use it to ship post.
Sure.
And they're going to have fun with it. So that's my
Well, I mean,
this is an interesting social product thing that always comes up. It's like, how much do you let people pay, and then how do you? But then there's always the revocability, right? And there's always the which makes it super interesting.
Well, what we should talk about is whether there's a separate interface that we want to set up for people to write some of these attestations, and see if we can get a loop around that, not just through the at work interface.
Yeah.
Since it's a lexicon, right? But we could also always bother Nick about what we would want for that. So yeah, let's figure out how to jam on that.
Endorse.
No.
All right. Yeah. I think that's our show.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all so much for having me.